No tax on tips is turning out to be a big letdown for a lot of people who thought it was going to change their lives. As one Las Vegas worker put it, it seems like a big bait and switch from the campaign. As we're beginning to see the implementation and guidelines of no tax on tips, a lot of people are feeling very let down. And it's probably not surprising. The first and most obvious letdown that a lot of people don't know is that no tax on tips ends in 2028. So that will sundown and go away in 2028. The billionaires tax cut does not go away. It does not end. So the billionaires got a permanent tax cut. No tax on tips ends in 2028. And even the idea, the phrase no tax on tips is not living up to the promise because it's actually a $25,000 deduction on many kinds of tipped income. One example of something that is likely not covered is a mandatory gratuity. So if you go to a restaurant and a mandatory tip is on the bill, a mandatory gratuity, that's not considered a tip as part of no tax on tips, and it wouldn't be covered. As I also said, it is a deduction. It is a tax deduction, and the tax deduction maxes out at $25,000. And you must, if you're married, you must file jointly to receive the tax credit. And the cap is still $25,000. So if both of you work in a tipped income scenario, your total is not $50,000. It's $25,000, and you must file jointly. And of course, the biggest issue that people in a community like mine, Las Vegas, are reporting is if there are no tips, it doesn't matter if there is no tax on those tips. A lot of people I know, and I've personally observed that people right now, whether that's because of the economy or tipping culture, are starting to actually tip less. I've heard lots of that sentiment, and a lot of people who work in the service industry are sort of saying they're hearing people say, "Oh, well, because you're not getting taxed on tips, that's like sort of a reason that people might consider not tipping or tipping less." At the end of the day, the promise of no tax and no tips is showing up very different in actual reality. And a lot of people are going to feel the pain of that. It's basic math. If you're making a decision to vote for policy and that policy ends up being worse off because, for example, the economy does not perform in a way that allows you to take advantage of that, well, and a lot of people in a town like Las Vegas make a lot more than $25,000 a year in tips in a good year. So the benefit of it, as one worker said, seems like a pretty big bait and switch.